All right, there we go. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our second meet and greet for the San Francisco Bay Chapter Sierra Club. Very, very happy to have you all here. My name is Scott Simmons. I served on the Nominations and Elections Committee for the past few years under Peggy De Silva. I don't know where she is on your screen, but she is the chair of the Nominations and Elections Committee. And yeah, let's get this show on the road. Peggy, can I hand it over to you?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Scott, so much for all the work that you've done on the committee for these years. And also, I'm very, very appreciative of the other two members of the committee, one who is sick and one who is traveling. That's Pam Green and Beth Simmons. So both of them send their greetings to you all. So let's take that away. The way we'll run this tonight, we weren't sure how many candidates we would have because the registrations were coming in up until today. So we asked people to prepare to say something up to 2 minutes. If you can keep it closer to 1, that gives other people more chance to ask you questions. But we have a hard stop at 2 for everybody's statement. And what we're going to plan to do is to start with the chapter people, have questions for people from the chapter, candidates for chapter XCOM. Then we'll do a little bit on the bylaws. And if you have any questions about the bylaws changes that are on your ballot, we can answer those. And then we'll go to the groups. And one of the things I'd like to do here is just to make sure that, is this, Scott, can you page down to all the candidates? Yeah. So chapter, I just want to do a little bit of a roll call so we know who we're calling on. I know that Philip and Matt signed up. Are you both here?
Yes, I am.
Philip's here. How about Matt?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, good. And then we'll just go across the top. So Marin, I know I see Holly and Pam signed up. Are you both here?
Yeah, I have a correction for you. Susan Hopp is not signing up.
Oh, she couldn't run. You're right. Okay. She's not on the ballot, I'm sure, but we'll make sure and try to take things off. Okay, that's right. Okay.
Oh, and correction, this is Matt Turner, not Matt Morrison. So.
Oh, okay. Matt Turner,
Yeah.
staff. Okay. So Tri-Valley group, are any of the Tri-Valley people here? Candidates? Not yet. Okay. From NAC, I think there were conflicts with several of these folks. Anybody here from NAC? Okay. And San Francisco, I know we have signed up Sandra, Kieran, Charles, Kim Shree. I saw Brian and Kelly. You guys are all here, and the only one that is a candidate that I didn't see signed up was Becky. Is that right? Okay. 6 out of the 7. Great. Welcome. Then Mount Diablo. Anybody here from Mount Diablo? John, right? John signed up. Great. Mount Diablo, John. West Contra Costa, is Hari here? No. Delta, Mark is coming, I know, but I don't know if he's here yet. Okay. Great. Then we'll just know who is here. And thank you so much all for taking time out of your very, very busy schedules to do this. And I did encourage people, even if your race, shall we say, is not competitive, I said it's really good to come and speak for a couple of minutes about what you think is really important about the chapter that you think you'd like to contribute to, what you think is important about your group and how you would like to contribute, because other people that are not here present will be watching. We get questions, will this be posted? And so we've been posting them, and people do go and look at them so they can learn a lot about you, even though, they aren't here right now. So it's great for you to just tell them, what's important. And I also say that I really love it because I learn things like I know very little about Delta. And so if somebody from Delta comes and talks, I learn good things about the Delta area and the Delta group. So welcome. So back up to the top then of our slides. Okay. Up. Okay. Meet your candidates, share your thoughts back and forth. That's what we're going to try to do. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So I always like to say to people, Sierra Club elections, we are very unique among the various organizations in the country. Although many people call us members, for example, the Fine Arts Museums or whoever else, they aren't. We don't have a vote. And the Sierra Club really, when you're a member, it's a democratic, messy organization where members vote. And the more we participate in the voting, the more we have to influence our own club and the things that it does. And Sierra Club's very powerful, big organization. And those of you who don't know, I encourage you to go to the Sierra Club National website and see the little blurb that's written up about Ben Jealous, who has just been appointed or hired as the new executive director of the Sierra Club. And I got to read his bio and I got to be part of a meet and greet with him. Actually, we didn't all get to talk, but a couple of days ago, and I was very impressed. So it's good to go and see what he has to offer. So the volunteer leaders of the Sierra Club are also somewhat unique. Our board of directors is volunteer. We vote for them in April, and all of our leaders of the chapters and the groups are also our volunteers. They are elected. In this election, we'll be electing the leaders of the XComs, and we also will be doing bylaws changes. I send everybody to our elections website because that's where all the information is that you'll need to know in order to vote in this election. And don't forget that voting closes on December 11th. That would be not this coming Saturday, but the next one. Okay, next. Next slide. Oops, nope, the bubbles. Yeah. So this is what we've been putting, we figured out a couple years ago and put this up for people so they would understand better, all of our members, how this leadership structure works in our chapter and with our groups. So they can see which are the members which are elected on the chapter XCOM. Some are elected at large and some are appointed by the groups. So that's the difference there. In the group XComs, everyone is elected. And if you are seeing empty circles, those are seats that are open. If the circles are colored, the seats are filled. Some of the groups have more seats open than they have candidates who are running. And I always consider that like something that, oh dear, we need to get more people involved. So that's what that's about. Next one, I think, is all our list of people. And we can just say welcome to all of you. And what's the next one, Scott? Yeah, okay. Up to 2 minutes each, questions and thoughts for chapter, and then groups 1 minute. If you can keep it to that, we'll let you go a little over, but like I said, hard stop on 2. So we'll do chapter first, questions, bylaws, questions, and then the groups in the order that they were on the page, okay? So I'd like to start then with Philip and Matt, who are our 2 chapter reps that are, or chapter candidates that are here, and to give each of you a chance to give us a couple of minutes about why you think you would like to be on the chapter XCOM and go to those very long meetings and do all that important work. And then people will ask you some questions. We got a couple of questions sent in on the registrations, and then people can ask others. So let's go with, who do I see first? None of them. Oh, there's Philip. Okay, Philip, can you be first and then Matt second?
Sure. Hi, so I'm Philip Havers. I've been nominated to fill one of the 4 at-large seats on the Bay Area XCOM, as Peggy was just explaining. About myself, I've been working on energy efficiency in buildings for the last 40 years or more, the last 20 plus years at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. My aim right from the beginning of that work, over those 40 years, was to reduce the contribution of buildings to global warming. Recently, just after I retired, I've become involved with Transition Network Berkeley and Transition Network Bollington, which is in the UK, Bollington being a small town, actually near where I grew up. And these are two of several hundred grassroots organizations around Europe and to some extent in the US, doing community development work through crop exchange, repair for reuse, electrification of housing, transportation. In other words, they have a pretty broad agenda, but really what they're doing, as well as meeting those particular goals, is to build community on that local scale. And it's clear to me that we in the Sierra Club, or we in those of us who are engaged in the fight against global warming, need a broader base of active support for our work for sustainable living than we actually have with the established environmental organizations, including the Sierra Club, if we are to achieve the speed and scale and persistence needed to tackle global warming and related problems over the long haul. So I have to say, I admit I'm unsure how to link those kind of grassroots community activities to the Sierra Club, and I would be interested to hear other people's takes on that. Maybe that could be a discussion if we have time for that.
Just a little bit over time, Philip.
Okay, so why don't I stop at that point? Yeah.
Well said. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't start my timers soon enough. We're short a couple people here, so it's hard. Okay.
I got
Thank
it.
you, Philip.
Does it work if I do? Can folks kind of see if I do this? Is that useful?
Yeah.
Oh, if you
Yeah,
can do that, that'd be great,
I'm
Scott.
here and I wasn't looking at it.
Oh no, I apologize. Philip, well said, my friend. Well said. I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I didn't want to
Oh,
cut
no,
you.
fine. That was a good stopping point, actually.
Great. Okay. Okay, Matt. Welcome. Oh, Matt Morrison. Now, is Matt Morrison not here?
I don't think he is.
I
Oh,
don't think
'cause
he
Matt
is, but we
Turner is
do,
here.
but we do
Okay.
have Marisol Rubio, who's on.
Oh, Marisol
ballot.
came. Great. Okay, Marisol. What I've said to people is up to 2 minutes. And I would recommend that people don't say what they said in their candidate statement already, because it's on online and in the Yodeler and all that kind of stuff. But give us more about you. Welcome. Go ahead.
Okay, I will do my best, Peggy, okay?
That's great.
Basically just a little bit about my background. I have a background in molecular cell biology with an emphasis in neurobiology, and it was really my journey starting out in college in the science courses, AP courses that I took, advanced courses, I'm sorry, honors courses, to be clear, that I took in college in forest restoration that really started piqued my interest in environmental issues. But it really brought me sort of full circle was when I had my daughter, and my daughter was unfortunately diagnosed with brain cancer. And that started to raise a lot of questions for me about exposures and things that I may have been around during my pregnancy, and things that may have put my daughter's own, myself and my own daughter's health at risk. Eventually over time, I started becoming more politically engaged. I had the fortune of meeting Igor, and who brought me into the fold of the Sierra Club and introduced me to a lot of the different people here. And I decided to run and succeeded in serving for as vice chair for the Tri-Valley group, as well as I've been serving now since January 2021 for the chapter. And also as a chapter delegate to the California Conservation Committee, and on the Bylaws Committee and EJ and DEI Committee. But I'm also now serving on the Sierra Club California for Executive Committee, and am running for national as well. Am also a current, was just recently elected. I've been serving on a water district and am now switching over to serve as a San Ramon City Council person. I was just recently elected this year. So I'm busy. What I've been doing and will continue to work on is I've been in sort of help pilot an initiative between labor and a labor climate task force to help us get workers into just transition so that we can begin to achieve our climate goals faster and sooner, and make sure that we reduce the, make sure that workers are secured into good jobs, long-term jobs, green jobs, and then just continue to
Just a
work.
little bit
I
over
work
time,
with
Marisol,
multiple
sorry.
organizations, yes, and make sure that the Sierra Club always has a seat at the table. So that's what I'm working on right now. Thank you.
Your resume is very difficult to fit into 2 minutes. Apologize for that.
It is.
Thank you, Marisol. Okay, how about if we have a few questions from the group here?
So Peggy, I'm not sure that you saw that I had joined as well. This is Nick Pilcha. I signed up
Oh,
at the
good.
last minute.
Oh, good. Hi, Nick. All right,
Hi.
launch in then.
Okay, will do. And apologies for the awkwardness. I'm calling from my car. I'll be in I'll be home later. But so let's see. Yeah, it is hard to put one's environmental interests all into 2 minutes. But I will say, do take a look at my candidate statement. There's a lot of information there about my background, including current and previous service on the Sierra Club and previous service on the Albany City Council. I think one thing I want to highlight is I'm working a lot on housing these days. I think we should have housing at all affordability levels, where people want to live and where people work. And the environmental nexus with this is that we have people traveling from great distances to jobs because they can't afford to live near their jobs. And I think that that is an expense of energy and production of greenhouse gas that doesn't need to happen, and it's very environmentally damaging. And other interests include alternative energy and alternative transportation. And, you know, fighting climate change is really the umbrella for all of this. Transportation and building are a great cause, or cause a great deal of greenhouse gas emission. Environmentally, we're better served at building out paths and trails for pedestrians and bicycles, and subsidizing transit and rail, and electrifying all sorts of transportation. And in the building sector, continuing to electrify and insulate existing building, vitally important, as well as making sure that new buildings are carbon neutral or carbon negative, and on-site solar being an important part of that. The rooftop solar industry is currently under attack. Some of the people who were supposed to be here today, I think, have been involved in that fight, particularly Igor, who was mentioned. And let's see, let me see where my time is. Okay, just a few seconds left. Animal agriculture, Eating Our Way to Extinction is free to watch on YouTube. I recommend that. You know, raising animals is a big environmental concern. Plastic is killing us. Just don't use it. Habitat and species conservation, too much that interests me. So I'll just leave it there. And thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much, Nick, for everything that you've done and all your interests. I want to ask now, Matt Morrison, not here yet? Or, okay. All right, then this question will go to, this is one that came into us. This will go to, let's do them in reverse order. Nick, then Marisol, then Philip. And not 2 minutes, but just kind of quick. The first question we have for the candidates for chapter. How good are you at management? And I'm thinking that has relevance to do with the chapter XCOM is a challenging body. How do you propose to manage this?
Yeah, absolutely. With care. I have management experience both in the private sector and, you know, you could say perhaps in the public sector as well in my elected experience. But I've been involved with the chapter and the club for quite some time, and I've learned. I've brought together some tools to deal with it. One of the tools that I use is just staying factual, staying calm, and dealing with the issues and not the people. I think it's really important to discuss the issues, have vigorous discussion about the issues and not involve the people. And sometimes we see that, people's passions boil up and they get involved in talking about each other rather than the issues, and that's a problem. I'm currently conservation chair of the NAC group, where I do facilitate the meetings. Another thing we do, which is good, which you're doing right here, is giving people time limits, which is also important in the group and chapter meetings, so that people don't drone on and on. And following that example, I will stop now.
Thank you, Nick. Marisol, how good are you at management? And I add in, how are you going to corral and run better at the XCOM?
Okay, I can honestly say I think it's been my life story. As a single mom, as you know, I've had to balance working, going to school, and doing multiple things for now 27 years. I have a great deal of experience trying to multitask and managing things. And as you heard, I'm carrying on multiple roles in addition to working. And I think I thrive under pressure. I love staying busy. I love doing the things that I am passionate about. And so it doesn't feel like work. I mean, being here with you, doing this work, to me is the whole reason we exist, is to leave a better future for that next generation. So to me, it doesn't even feel like work. I just sort of feel like I'm living out my truth. My management wise, I can just say that I think it's just my passion that keeps me on top of things. And I have 7 seconds, and all I can say is I think my record speaks for itself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marisol. Okay, Philip, how good are you at management? And Philip, interestingly, has not been on the XCOM in the past, whereas Marisol and Nick have. So it comes in with a bit of a new person's eyes to see it, and might have some interesting things to say about how, manage. Go,
All
Philip.
right. I attended one meeting as a guest a couple of months ago, and frankly, there was one part of it where I was actually shocked and appalled at what happened, but I'm not going to dwell on that now. And I'm hoping that, when we get started next year, that things will go better. I guess my main management experience has been managing multiple research projects while I was working at the lab, and that also included international projects as well. So probably it's a bit different to other people's experience, and hopefully they will complement. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to tell people also, our candidates have mostly posted contact information on their candidate statements on the website. So if you have a question and it hasn't been answered, please send it to them. My experience is they're very responsive. So that's great.
Speaking of questions, Peggy, Wendy asked a good question in chat, and I didn't want to let it slide away. I just wanted to make sure we had the dates.
Let's do one or two, if there's one from Wendy, and then if there's one other for the chapter people, and then we'll move on to the groups, or onto the bylaws, which is quick, and then the groups.
It was just a quick question actually for you. It was a quick question for you and me, actually. So the dates, to the last day to vote, just clarifying that. It's December 10th or December 11th is the last day to vote in selection.
Yeah, Sunday the 11th, midnight, but please don't send your vote in at 11:59. You just don't know what gremlins will get it,
I just wanted to ask that to make sure that in case it was a question in anybody's mind, in case Peggy or I misspoke, just so everybody's clear. Awesome. Okay. I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, anybody else have a question for the chapter XCOM candidates? No? Okay. If you do come up with something, like I said, send it into them and ask them. Let's see. I want to go to the bylaws. Let's see here. If Scott can pull those up, and we'll just talk very briefly about those and take any questions that you might have about these bylaws changes that are showing up on the ballot. So if you've seen your Yodler ballot, because everybody gets a paper ballot in the Yodler, and then you also can vote electronically if you wish through your member number. So we on the nominations and elections committee over the last few years have been, working a lot on trying to say, and this is kind of a Sierra Club national effort too. Let's diversify our membership. Let's bring people into leadership who have not been there before. Let's be welcoming, all those kinds of things. So how do we do that? And how do we make sure that we respect and treasure people who have been here for many, many years working in leadership, and yet also bring in other folks who have different ideas? So one of the things that and also make sure that we have competitive elections, because if you have too many candidates or too many open seats and not enough candidates, people say, why should I vote? And that isn't good when you have real low turnout for a lot of reasons. I won't go into so much, but so what we asked the groups to do and the chapter was to consider three things. We asked them to consider the size of the executive committee, whether they had the right size executive committee for the chapter or the specific group. We asked them to think about the petition process of getting on the ballot as a candidate, because you can be nominated by a committee or you can petition. And there's different perspectives on how open the petition process is or should be. So that was something to look at. And one of the questions was, if it's a really high number of people to sign a petition in a small group, that seems like perhaps that's a barrier, if not actual perceived, to people who might want to run. So, and then the next thing was, we were watching how sometimes when there were vacancies, there wouldn't be people running for the position. They would just get appointed by the people who were already there. And again, I'm not saying that necessarily is a bad thing, but it can lead to a little bit of insularity, that the same people who are in the positions might appoint people that they know. I mean, generally you'd appoint who you know. So that was a question too, of saying, how do we make sure that the members get to choose who's elected? So what we ended up with was all the groups and the chapter decided that their size of XCOM was what they wanted to hold it for at this point. The number of petition signatures has been lowered for chapter, NAC, SAC, and Marin. No, chapter, NAC, and Marin, not SAC. And then we also have on the SAC ballot and the chapter, NAC, and Marin, a point that says, if you're put in to fill a position, somebody leaves for whatever reason from the XCOM, and you're appointed, then you will stand for election for a vote of the members in the next election, not for the whole term, because it could be that you were appointed in January and basically then you'd be appointed for a whole term and the members wouldn't have a chance to say who they preferred to have in there. I believe in the NAC ballot, it also says that specifically, and I think this has been in the practice of some groups also, that if you had people where there was one year or more than a year available, the person who got the higher number of votes would take the longer term. So they were kind of putting that into process. So those are on your ballot because, again, as a democratic organization, this is a bylaw amendment. This is how we run our club in a way that we think is best. So you can vote yes or no on those. Everybody can vote on the chapter one, and then the people in the groups that are relevant will vote on the group ones. So that's a little bit about that. And if anybody has any questions, we can quickly answer them. And of course, you can always email us, the elections committee, at our email, which is on the chapter website, elections@sfbsc.org.
Any questions about those amendments? It's riveting
I
stuff.
think I
It is
saw
really
a chat,
important.
maybe. Which one is 1 and 2?
I'm sorry, Peggy?
Is that on the, did somebody go ahead and tell me what that question was? Was it Wendy?
Yes, you see on the screen, it doesn't say which one's amendment 1 and which one's amendment 2. And you started out talking about the second one first and the first one second. And on my ballot, it says 1 and 2, but it doesn't say what they are.
Okay, I've got my ballot in front of me.
Ah.
Okay. Okay, so for the election ballot, the bylaw amendments for the chapter bylaw amendment, 1 is as it appears on this screen.
Those
Um,
2 things are number 1.
The first one is number 1, serve only
Appoint-
until the next election. Yes,
Okay, because it
Okay.
doesn't say 1. And the second one's reduced numbers, number 2.
the second one for the chapter, yes, is
Okay.
qualify as a candidate, you will need 30 signatures rather than 40
Okay, I just didn't.
or 50, yeah. Right, and if you look, now I'm not sure for Marin, for Northern Alameda County and Southern Alameda County, let me just see here. They look like they are also the same. Elected till the next election. And SAC has another amendment in there that's slightly different.
So who votes for I'm sort of new at this, but I just wanted to know, so if San Francisco chapter member doesn't vote for these, it's just for this at large and for
No, Wendy,
what?
so every member of our chapter, that's you, that's me, that's everybody in every group is a member of the chapter.
Of the San
So
Francisco.
every one of us, yeah, it's a San Francisco Bay chapter.
Bay
That's us,
chapter,
yeah,
all
yeah,
these
the
are
Bay
the counties.
chapter. So
Oh,
we all
Oh,
vote
with
for
the
the
group.
chapter amendments.
Oh,
And then the specific group, where do you live?
I'm San Francisco group.
Okay, so you don't have any bylaw amendments,
Okay, so
For
I
the
don't vote for
group.
any of those.
right?
Oh.
You do for the chapter, but you would not for Marin, NAC, and SAC, because you're not in those.
Oh, I see. So where it says chapter bylaws, I vote for I can vote for these 2.
The
Okay,
chapter ones, yes, because you're a
Okay,
chapter
okay,
member, we all are,
okay.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for asking. I expect that we will have many questions.
Yeah, thank you for the question,
And-
Wendy. Peggy,
Yeah.
I see Nick's hand up.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, thanks. If you'll indulge me, I don't have a question, but just a quick comment. First of all, thanks the Elections Committee for doing this. And second of all, thank you, Peggy, for asking that question about whether the group's size is correct. And I think it's telling that all groups and chapter all said, oh, yes, we're fine. And yet we have some non-competitive elections and some competitive in some elections where we can't even fill all the seats. So I appreciate that question being asked. And I think we might want to pursue in the future exactly how it was decided how many seats should be in each group and in the chapter, because making if we don't have enough people for these seats, maybe making it smaller would make it more competitive and maybe more democratic, perhaps. So just a thanks for indulging me in my comment.
Thank you, Nick. And I think that what you said is, yes, we can continue looking at that and paying attention to it. And in my work with different groups and talking with them about these potential bylaws, I heard very interesting reasons for things like the size of the XCOM. And I think there's more conversation to be had about that. So yeah, good. Anybody else questions on these amendments? Okay, thank you. Then we go on to, let's see, we go on to the candidates, right, from the groups. Okay, so I think our first one is Marin. So we have Holly and we have Pam. So Holly and Pam, you each get 2 minutes, up to 2 minutes. You can be shorter if you want. Tell us about what's going on in Marin and why you'd like to be on the XCOM.
I'll go first. I don't know, is Holly here? But anyway,
Holly registered, but maybe she's not. So go ahead, Pam.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you for
Pamela
being here.
Meggs. Oh, you can hear me. Pamela Meggs, native from Berkeley and grew up in the East Bay and have lived in Marin since the late 80s. I am a registered nurse with a master's in community health. I've done so many volunteer things, I can't remember them all, but I will say that I got on the Marin XCOM group. I think it's been a little over a year and a half, and it's going to be hard for me to say this, but Judy Shriebman asked me to join. And also I'll tell you a little bit about my history some more. So I grew up in Rodeo, right next to Phillips 66 and 2 other refineries. So I know what a sacrifice city is. And I've actually done a little help with Jacob in the East Bay and hung out because I still own my mother's house over there. And so the thing that was brought me to the Sierra Club is mostly thinking how fragile our earth is. Being a nurse, you know, I'm into life and life cycles and the destruction of life. And I am pretty upset that we don't have a lot of time left, and I'm really focused on that. I have some other jobs I do in Marin. I'm elected on the Ross Valley Sanitary District, the North Bay Watershed Association. I founded the Fairfax Open Space Committee in 2004, which is still alive and well. Oh, good, you got a clock there. And I worked on a general plan advisory committee, but a lot of my passion for the outdoors comes from Girl Scouts from about 8 years and up. And my father was an outdoorsman, and I was a real adventure junkie for all kinds of things all over the world. And so anyway, I will wrap up, and I would love to stay on the committee. I am looking forward to bring in youth, and I'm also want to look at activities for the disabled. And last, I'm really passionate about land acquisition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pam. I wanted to say, Pam mentioned it was hard to say that Judy Shriebman asked her to join. And for those of you who don't know, Judy was the chair of the Marin XCOM and a longtime activist, and she passed away this last week. So we're a lot of us very sad about that. And may things go well for her family, and may she rest in peace. But thank you, Pam. Okay, so I think people probably, why don't we see if people have questions for Pam right now? Do you see any, Scott, showing up in chat?
Sorry, I'm trying to keep up.
I know.
No, I don't see any for
Okay,
Pam.
and we could do just a couple of minutes, and then we'll move on to San Francisco, unless anybody from Tri-Valley's here. Does anybody here present in the room have any question or comment for Pam briefly? Okay, hearing none, you can probably contact her through her candidate statement contact information if you think of something in the next few days. Okay, maybe you can give us, Scott, the listing for the San Francisco people. And I think we have 6 of the 7 candidates here. So if you can show us, and then if you all can just go in order there, we'll give you each up to 2 minutes, and then we'll have questions.
Sorry, my Zoom is being strange. I'm sorry, Peggy, you wanted me to share the screen?
Oh, I can pull it. I was just going to give them the order that they have for, let's see.
Just mean there, that screen?
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Sandra, we don't think Becky's here. Is Sandra here?
Yes, I am.
Sandra's here. Okay, Kieran would be next, then Charles, then Kim Shree, then Brian, and then Kelly. So I better write that down so I don't get confused. Sandra, Kieran, Charles, Kim Shree, Brian, and Kelly. Okay, Sandra, would you like to start? Up to 2 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you
Welcome.
very much. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you for this opportunity to address fellow members. Yes, I am running for a seat on the executive committee for the San Francisco group, and my name is Sandra Lee Fewer. I am a fourth generation San Franciscan Chinese American. I have lived in the Richmond district where I lived since 1959, and I was born at Chinese Hospital in San Francisco. I would like to serve in this committee because I think I've always respected the work that Sierra Club does. I know how powerful an organization, a voice it is at City Hall, but even around for San Franciscans, and actually the Sierra Club helped to shape many of the policies to make San Francisco who they are. I mean, I think that we were first in about the recycling efforts, all those things. Longtime members of the Sierra Club did this. Now that I'm retired, I retired from public office in 2021. I was on the school board in San Francisco for 8 years, and then I was on the Board of Supervisors for 4 years. And during my time in both my elected offices, I also passed legislation to adopt the Good Food Purchasing Act, which was, I think we were the only school district in California that had done that. And it has now expanded to other states where we use our procurement dollars to ensure that invest in companies only that meet certain standards for environmental sustainability, a value workforce, also for animal welfare. So, and these are using our procurement dollars from the San Francisco Unified School District and also the city and county of San Francisco to go towards sustainable farming, and that we are not investing in companies using public dollars that actually don't adhere to these standards. Also, I'm really involved in my environment, I think locally. You know, my father-in-law founded Friends of the Urban Forest. And so I come from a long family, married into a family, 41 years, my husband, of arborists. I think it's very important that we keep open space accessible for everyone. And I must say, during my time on the Board of Supervisors and on the Board of Education, I have seen the great environmental inequity that is happening in San Francisco. And I would like to be able to participate in a larger voice about what is happening in the Bayview Hunters Point and also in Treasure Island about that cleanup there. We knew for years on the school district that children that live in the Bayview have high incidence of asthma. And then we know that our Black community in San Francisco has the highest Black infant mortality rate in the nation. So I think that why I would like to serve is I would also like to expand the diversity of the SF group. And I think I can bring my networks, my friendships, and also people that I've worked with and people that actually trust me from those communities to broaden the membership so they can also have a voice in the Sierra Club. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Next one is Kieran.
Hello, my name is Kieran Farr. I'm a 20-year resident of San Francisco, and the most recent 10 years of those, actually 6 years, have been with my kids. So, you know, becoming a parent in San Francisco has given me a lot of motivation to really engage with the community. It's really driven me to look for healthier and more sustainable transportation options for my family. And that has driven me personally to become much more involved in transportation advocacy and climate action. And that's what I'm most excited about being able to bring to the San Francisco Club, the Sierra Club. I'm very excited to see the positive change in San Francisco recently and the involvement of both the Sierra Club and activist organizations, grassroots organizations. A great example of that recently is the passage of Prop J to keep JFK car-free and open to people. And so I'm very excited to have the opportunity for the Sierra Club to use its power to drive for direct climate action. I'll take a pause and give a little background on myself and some things I do outside of the advocacy. My favorite thing to do is to explore the city with my kids, like Max. Max is excited to show me his RC car. At the start of the pandemic, we bought an e-bike. And that has been our way of exploring the city when all the playgrounds were closed and allowed us to explore all the nooks and crannies of San Francisco and remote parks. Another thing I really value a lot is my participation with the SOMA Bayview Rotary Club. What we do is repair bikes that were stolen and given back to the police department, and then help give them to veterans and people of need. And it's been very exciting to see the fruits of our efforts actually impact people's lives and give them the mobility transportation options that they need. So I'm looking forward to bringing that experience and really to bring the grassroots efforts of transportation advocacy to the Sierra Club and the San Francisco chapter. And I'd like to thank the volunteers, Scott and Peggy, and the rest of the election committee and the chapter exec committee for putting all the time and effort into running this. I realize it's a lot of work. So thank you everyone for this opportunity.
Thank you, Kieran. It is a lot of work. Being a Sierra Club volunteer is a lot of work. We hope hope it's all worthwhile. Okay, thank you. Okay, next one is Charles.
Hi, y'all. First, thanks to the election committee, like Scott and Peggy, of course, and the chapter XCOM. I know there's a bunch of other volunteers who made this election possible. So thanks for putting this event together and helping us get through this process. Yeah, my name is Charles Whitfield. My candidacy is motivated by like the climate emergency. I want to see the San Francisco Sierra Club put more focus on local climate action that can have like regional, statewide, national ripple effects. I think there's like a surprising amount that one city, when it's a city like San Francisco, can do to promote like truly like national and international change in terms of climate action. My personal like kind of origin story is kind of multifaceted. I'm a big trail runner, so I have a personal motivation to like preserve and expand our open spaces and access to natural wonders that we have so many of here in the Bay Area, and also specifically recently to curtail our trend of the wildfires that we've been having. That was like a real wake-up call for me in fall of 2018, I think it was my first bad wildfire season in SF. And it was just like incomprehensible to me how nightmarish it was, and really brought home that like climate action has to be like the #1 priority for any club, really any club, but especially an environmentalist club. I also lived in South Korea before moving to San Francisco, and that really shaped my understanding of kind of what's possible in terms of a city with incredible public transit, amazing access to nature and open space, if you can believe it. It's surprising, but it's true. And also, of course, a very low carbon footprint compared to what we have here in California. So I'd like to see the Sierra Club in San Francisco kind of to use local policy or advocate for local policy change that would improve public transit and other green transit, and improve access to open space, and lower the carbon footprint of the average San Franciscan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles, and thank you for running. Kim Sri, you're next. Thank you for being here. Is Kim Sri here? Or maybe she's not. Okay. If Kim Sri's not, then Brian, you're up.
How's it going? My daughter decided to join in a hot
Good.
second.
Hello.
So say hi, Olivia. That is Olivia, and I'm Brian Reyes, and I'm in these Outer Sunsets. So my origin story about got here in San Francisco, 2007. Born and raised in Oxnard. I would say the environmental movement never really reflected me growing up. I grew up listening to Tupac and hip hop and breakdancing in suburbia, Southern California. And I got up here to Northern California and San Francisco, and y'all completely schooled me on organizing and advocating. My everyday, so that's where I find myself today, and I think is helping me drive running for the Sierra Club, is the power that it has, as you all have mentioned, but also the advocacy and the organization I know it takes. As far as when I got here to San Francisco, a lot of my work is in climate action planning. I was working for the city of San Francisco, developing and implementing that climate action plan. Work for Marin County and do the same work, focusing on green building, community stakeholder engagement. Everything about it is climate action. And I think we can all certainly agree that that's what we need to do. But one thing I would say that one of my mentors says is not about changing the climate when it comes to climate change and climate action, is changing the systems. And the systems as humans have created are getting in the way of really addressing, I think, this climate emergency and all of our issues. I think one thing I'd like to bring to the table is understanding all those issues. If you see my candidate statement, I put it in 6 pillars. It's no longer just environment, it's a nexus of a lot of issues, not just environmental justice, equity, housing affordability, affordable housing, working closer to work, sustainable transit. Everything is sort of crashing in each other. And I see that every day in my implementation work. I would also say that one thing that we all talk about is action and developing actual policy. But one thing I'd like to see to hold our electeds accountable as an XCOM member is an implementation. And that's what we lack in working closely with staff, as well as city staff, as well as electeds, and holding them accountable to implement those actions that they put forth in policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Brian, you're one of the ones. You, Nick, I think Philip, there's a few of you who have come to both of our meet and greets. It's like, great job. Gold star. All right. Kelly, you're next. Welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Akemi Groth. I'm a fourth generation Japanese American, 5th generation Californian. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, where both my parents helped me really nurture my love for nature and the environment. My grandpa on my mom's side was incarcerated during World War II as a Japanese American. So hearing his stories as a kid, I was just really struck by them and just knew I wanted to dedicate my life to fighting for racial justice. So I have a decade of experience working in environmental policy, especially environmental justice. I earned my master's degree in sustainability from University of Oregon. One of my projects while at grad school was canvassing neighbors who lived right across the street from a creosote plant and had several health issues, including heart issues, cancer. So with that self-reported data, we were able to synthesize and send to the city of Eugene and point out all the environmental health disparities that existed in that neighborhood. And while I moved from Eugene back to the Bay Area, it was with great news that they finally closed the plant, I believe last year. Previously, I worked at NextGen America, formerly NextGen Climate, which was founded by Tom Steyer. We ran national campaigns to educate and turn out the youth vote in swing states where people, 18 to 35, they don't vote as much as the myth. But this last election saw huge vote turnout in swing states, which was great to see. So I worked there for 5 years, working on budget, operations, and side projects, working on environment, especially organizing events for the Global Climate Action Summit here in San Francisco. I now work for Supervisor Connie Chan. I staff her on housing, transportation, and environmental issues, and I hope to use my experience that I'm gaining while working on the board. And she chairs LAFCO, so I'm able to work on a lot of environmental, Clean Power SF, projects, public bank, continuing the work that former supervisor Sandra Fior has done. So really excited to bring that perspective to the Sierra Club. I'm running for the Sierra Club because I have a decade of environmental policy experience. My priority is to uplift communities impacted by environmental racism, especially Bayview Hunters Point. Advocate for building out sustainable and equitable local energy systems, including reforming net energy metering, and working to reduce consumption of single-use plastics. So I also want to bring a lens of organizing younger folks and getting them more involved. Sorry, my notes were covering the time. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Welcome, and we're glad you're here. I want to go to the questions for the San Francisco folks. I think we have one that was sent in ahead of time. Let's see. Okay. Registrants. And maybe I'll call your names because you probably won't remember what order you were in, but we'll go backwards just like we did before with this question. So the question came in from a San Francisco member. Will you publicly support making the Great Highway a park, keeping JFK car-free, and keeping all the slow streets, including Lake? And that's the question, which is a little bit long, but I think it's all connected. And let's go Kelly, Brian, no Kim Shree, Charles, Kieran, then Sandra. So Kelly first, publicly support those things.
Peggy, just real
Yeah.
quick for everybody to know, sorry to interrupt.
15 seconds, yes or no? Sorry, Scott.
15 seconds? Wait, really?
Oh,
How much time do you want to give them? Because we're
well, not very long because we have to get to the other people. I don't want us to run out of time.
okay. Do you
What
want
do
a
you- I
timer on
mean,
this?
But I'm not a dictator, so what, 30 seconds? Don't talk too long.
Okay,
There's a lot of them.
sorry.
Can you guys do it in 30? Yeah, okay.
Fiery
Kelly, give it a
subject, but
try.
we'll try.
You're first, Kelly.
Okay, I wasn't sure when my time started. Yeah,
Go.
so I'm an avid cyclist. I understand the need for, making sure that our bike infrastructure is safe. I've been hit by a car. I don't think that car-free streets means that it's all of a sudden our bike infrastructure is going to be changed overnight and people will stop hitting cyclists with their car. So I think that we need a citywide look at, how can we get people out of cars and move to public transportation? How do we make our bike infrastructure safer? And how do we ensure that, the time went away. Is my time up?
It's
It is.
done.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good response.
That was an excellent effort in a short time. Thank you. Okay, next one, Brian, give it a shot. 30 seconds.
But yeah, definitely support Great Highway Park. I hope organized for that, as well as JFK. In the end, we got to think what's directionally accurate and what's good for the city and the history of the policy that we put forth. Like I mentioned in my introduction, that's were a lot of, I don't know, since the 80s, the transit first policy, since 96 sustainability plan, been talking about these things forever. And it's time that we do it. And we have the language to make that happen, as well as a lot of people advocacy on the ground that are willing to make that happen and work with the community and build it. So yes to all that.
Good job. Thank you. Good effort. Charles, how fast can you talk?
Yeah, I completely support slow streets, Great Highway Park, any car-free or car light spaces in the city. I have used basically all of them as like a runner and a cyclist and a bike commuter. I love all that stuff. Kelly's right that that's not going to be completely sufficient for like this to solving the city's like bike friendliness and car violence problems. But I think it's cheap, it's quick, it's easy to implement. If it doesn't work, we can take it out very easily. So I think it's great and I love it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Kieran, and then it will be Sandra.
Yes, so absolutely yes. I completely support slow streets, keeping the Great Highway only open to people and not cars, and of course keeping JFK only for people. My daughter and I did a lot of canvassing for Yes on J to keep JFK closed to cars. And it's been an amazing experience for her to actually be involved in politics. And when you ask people what's their number one barrier to active transportation, it's really not having safe spaces. So it's wonderful to be able to have this for our community.
Thank you. Okay, Sandra.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy. The San Francisco group has not taken an official position on the Great Highway issue, and they've requested for a CEQA or environmental review. I am, after having been a policymaker and actually implementing very early a slow street in my district, Lake Street, and also then 23rd, and then Cabrillo, and then also through Golden Gate Park. We were one of the first adopters of slow streets in one of the first districts, and that was Lake Street was the first one that I But I actually am not in touch now with people, and I don't know the data, and I haven't seen it. I think if I were to really vote on this issue, with the ballot being on the executive committee, I would delve really deep into all the data and what does it say? And then
That is
most importantly,
just over time, Supervisor Fuhrer.
okay, what is
Sorry.
MTD doing for traffic and safety improvements throughout the Richmond and the Sunset District? Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Congratulations to all of you for answering that question in such a short period of time. And thank you to your from your fellow candidates who now get a chance to speak. If other people have San Francisco questions, how about you put them in the chat? Scott will monitor those. So let's give the other people a chance to speak, and then we can come back if there are more questions. So I think the next one up on my list of people would be Matt Turner from SAC.
Excuse me, Peggy, I'm so sorry. I think I see in the chat, there was another question for San Francisco group candidates.
We could
There
do
are
one
three.
more. We could do one more if everybody's okay with that. One more and then we'll go on.
Sure.
Okay, I'll just pick one of the three. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Matt Turner asks the SF candidates, San Francisco has a massive impact on the Sierra Nevada through the SFPUC. The western slope of the Sierras has been devastated by poor logging practices, backwards forestry management, wildfires, and a plague of pine beetles. Some feel local groups should focus their immediate area and leave, I think it got cut off there, but leave other areas. Let me see. Apologies, Zoom is being hard. Some feel local groups should focus on their immediate area and leave the fate of the Sierras to the groups in the rural counties. However, the foothill groups are in Trump County and Trump country and have very little ability to alter local policy. Given that SF sources its life-giving water from the Sierras and the small communities in the foothills, are you willing to put a significant focus on advocating for policies that would begin restoration of the western slope? So basically, should the SF group be focusing its efforts on geographic areas that are environmentally important, but not in San Francisco?
That was kind of a long question. Okay, so we want
Sorry.
short answers. If you can give them, I mean, I think it's complex, but let's go on our reverse order again. And that puts you up, Sandra, first. Good luck with that.
Okay, don't know enough about this, but actually I do think it's worth speaking to the other chapters and seeing what they have to say that are more directly affected with these communities also. To lend support, I think, could be helpful to other chapters. If we're all united around sort of the same purpose and mission, I would say that it's an opportunity for us to actually work up and down the state of California also, and not just in our SF group or our chapter. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Kieran.
Thank you for the question. I do think this is something that San Francisco needs to consider, and I agree, Sandra, absolutely working with the other groups would be helpful, but San Francisco does have a unique role in that we do source the water from there, and so we have legal liability as a city, and I think it is a worthy question to ask the committee and the San Francisco chapter to consider that impact. Another issue to address really is the concept of managed retreat as a concept, and looking at more dense housing and how municipalities like San Francisco can be part of that solution.
Thank you, Kieran. Charles.
Yeah, so I'm an avid trail runner, as I mentioned. So I love running in the Sierras and exploring those kind of places. So I'm all about like preserving and restoring them. Helping out the local groups or pushing with the local groups sounds like a great kind of approach. But also, as Kieran said, there's a lot that SF can do locally that can have those regional or statewide impacts. And the more housing that we can build here, the more attractive kind of, or the more open community we can build here, the less urban sprawl, suburban sprawl will like be going out and impacting those places.
Thank you, Charles. Brian.
Is it okay to just say what Sandra, Kieran, and Charles said?
Yes,
Agree
it
with
is. Thank you
all
so
the
much.
points, but I
Onward.
particularly agree that people working on the ground there, what Sandra said, and understanding their needs and understanding that what happens in hand there, need to further educate ourselves on that. In terms of taking a shot at answering the question and how I feel, I think working with the PUC when we get a chance, I know they do a significant amount of restoration of the watershed. And then I know that they're wanting to diversify the water source, and I think that's important as well.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Last one, Kelly.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Sandy, working with the other chapters and also working with the PUC. I know we have a lot of land all throughout the Bay Area and up near Yosemite. So I think it would be a great collaboration effort to work with the local chapters, PUC, and also just an ability to go out into the community and go door to door and talk to people, hear what their concerns are, because I mean, it may be Trump country, but there's folks there that you can level with on, you know, different issues. It's not just, you know, who they voted for, but yeah, I think community outreach is always a good answer.
Okay, thank you. Good effort. Good effort. That was a tough one. Okay, well, the person who put that forward. So like I said, let's let Matt and John and Mark have their say from SAC, from Mount Diablo, and from Delta, and then we can come back in the time that we have to any more. And it's fine with me if we stay on a little bit longer, depending on, you know, who wants to do that. But at this point, Matt Turner is a candidate for the SAC group, another one of those ones who came on the 29th and is here again today. Thank you. Thank you so much, Matt. You have up to 2 minutes.
Sorry, can I just jump in and say that there's Igor's in the waiting room. He's asked to be let in. I also got knocked out and I'm in the waiting room, so you might want to just check the waiting room.
Apologies.
Thank
Thank you.
No, Igor. Sorry, Igor. Just
Sorry,
teasing.
I'm trying to do a lot of things at once over here. I apologize.
Okay. All right, Matt, go ahead.
All right, so a little bit about me. I was born in Oakland, but grew up in the foothills of Amador County on a cattle ranch, and spent a lot of time hiking around in the Sierras. And I've hiked Pacific Crest Trail from Mexico up through Oregon and most of Washington, and am intimately familiar with it. And it's in terrible shape. So, you know, I've been involved in county level policy and particularly planning for the last 12 years. Worked most of that time for the Board of Supervisors in Alameda County in District 4, where I live. And I live in the urban unincorporated area, which is a relatively unknown piece of land would be the 4th largest city in Alameda County. It's about 140,000 people without a local government. And the planning choices without a local government are very bad. I live in particular in an environmental justice community where we have one of the lowest life expectancies in central Alameda County. And a lot of that is directly associated with poor planning. So, you know, one of the things I'd like to see is improved interface with planning bodies and really, you know, putting a thumb on some of the things that they're doing so we can get better outcomes. But also I want to, you know, we here also get our water from the Sierras through East Bay Mud. And that comes from Amador and Calaveras counties, where the western slope has been just devastated. Portions of it look like the surface of Mars these days. And the local groups are begging for help and get none from local chapters. And I really want to see that change. You know, they need alliances because they are in a substantial minority up there. They're interested in making things happen, but they can't do it with the small groups alone. So those are some things I really want to bring focus to here in Southern Alameda County group. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Matt. Okay, we have John from Mount Diablo would be our next candidate.
Thank you very much. My name is John Chatowski. I'm currently a member of the Diablo group on the executive committee. I was appointed last year. A little bit about my background. I grew up in Southern California, and by the time I was in my, before I was 10 years old, my mother was a member of the Sierra Club. So I have been part of the Sierra Club since the 1970s, and also a Boy Scout. I think Pam mentioned that the Girl Scouts were important to her. The Boy Scouts were important to me because we were a backpacking troop, and we hiked all throughout the Sierras, and that instilled in me from a very early age the importance of the outdoors and preserving it. Being a kid growing up in LA in the big city, that was always something that I was attracted to. Now I've been in the Bay Area for about 20 years. I've lived consistently in the East Bay. And like I said, I've become more involved in the Sierra Club over the last 2 or so years. First with the advocacy training program that they had last year with Loma Prieta and with the Bay chapter, which really got me more involved in seeing what I could do myself as an advocate for environmental causes. From that, I joined the Diablo group and started getting more involved in other activities in our chapter area, in the Diablo Groups area, which is very, very diverse, from Richmond to Martinez to Orinda, Walnut Creek, all the way down to Danville, where I live. And there are a lot of different problems that we have in different areas that I think need a lot of attention, from the issues in my backyard with expanding the limit line and adding more housing, to problems they have in Richmond. The Malate issues, Point Malate, that were just dealt with, are things that I was very involved in as well. So I think that there are a lot of things that we can do in this chapter, in this particular group. And I think outreach is very, very important. I think that getting out and getting more people involved, I'm in a very competitive race. There are 5 people running for 4 spots in my group, which I think is fantastic. And hopefully, we'll just get some more faces in our group. So wanted to thank all of the people who are on this call, and it's great to have so much energy to promote environmental causes. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for being here and for running for the leadership position. Okay, we'll do Mark and then Igor. Mark is from Delta chapter. I know Mark had some conflict. He may or may not be here. Mark, are you here, Mark Lind? Oh, maybe. Did you check waiting room, Scott?
I just checked it. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't see him.
I thought I saw something, Delta. Did something popped up in chat?
I was just noting that it's the Delta group.
Yeah, Delta. Mhm. Okay, so John was from Mount Diablo. Mark is from Delta, not here. Igor is from Northern Alameda County. Igor is here. Welcome, Igor. Tell us about yourself.
I thank you for having me. I think I have 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Just some highlights. Over the last few months, I have been using the Sierra Club I've been involved with the Sierra Club in various capacities over the years, including having the privilege and honor of serving as the youngest chapter chair in modern history, and I believe the first immigrant chair. I am very focused right now on 4 interrelated, intertwined issues that are important to me. Saving my homeland of Ukraine, saving the state of solar energy in California, saving the planet, and saving democracy, including energy democracy. And the Sierra Club has been a force for good in all of these respects. And that is why I am running for re-election to the Northern Alameda County group. I have had the privilege of chairing it for the last few years. And in that time, we have worked to improve our diversity and equity and inclusion within the group, to work with environmental justice and frontline communities, to continue to fight call going through Oakland and succeed at that, to elect candidates that share our values. And we had a 95% track record across based on candidates and ballot measures that we have endorsed this last cycle. I would be honored to earn your vote so we can continue to work together. Please contact me with your ideas at igor@sfbaysc.org. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Igor, for all those different things. Let's look and see if we have any questions first for Igor, Matt, John, not Mark, because Mark's not here. I think, because I think you said, Scott, from the chat, there are some more for the San Francisco people, and we have 10 minutes left.
We do. Do you want to do another question for the SF folks?
Well, no, I want to make sure that if anybody has any questions for Matt, John, or Igor, they get answered, because they haven't had any ones to answer yet. There wasn't anything posted, right?
Not in chat, not that I saw.
Okay, okay. Anybody want to raise your hand and ask a question of any of these fine candidates? That are not the San Francisco ones, because we're getting to them, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for Igor, and thanks for your earlier efforts to welcome me when I was first joining. I wanted to ask you about Berkeley's Measure L, and your name was associated with that and the literature that came through my door. And I have to say that I voted against it because I thought the city council was overreaching. And I just wanted, I'd like to know what the process is for endorsing the political measures, election issues, and how that gets, how those decisions get made, and why indeed an individual's name would be associated with that link to the Sierra Club. So I was, surprised by that. I'm new around here, so I need some things explaining to me, and that could be offline. I don't know if there's anything real quick you want to say about that.
Well, thank you so much, Philip. And I'm really excited that we will get a chance to work together on the chapter executive committee. Measure L, just for background, which did not pass, it needed 2/3 majority. It received a little bit under 60% of the vote, was a bond measure for sustainable infrastructure and $200 million in affordable housing, which incidentally, I used to chair a previous oversight body for when we had the previous $135 million bond for affordable housing, which the Sierra Club also endorsed. Endorsements for candidates as well as ballot measures go through a robust, systematic process. It starts with the group's executive committee. It then, for ballot measures specifically, the political committee of the chapter is advisory, but the chapter executive committee has to vote on it. And then there's a final approval step, and that's the local ballot measure review committee, which Nick is on. And at each of those points, except for the last one, it requires a supermajority of voting members to move it forward to the next level. Once endorsed, the group chair is authorized to use that in campaign communications and communications to voters.
Yeah. We can talk more.
That's a complicated question. And actually there are others who I frequently get questions from people who, actually I got one angry person from this last public election who said to me, how could you, the Sierra Club, have endorsed whoever it was? I can't remember. And I said, not my job. I'm internal elections. And so yes, that would be a different committee, but it is a great question because we've got some different parts in the Sierra Club, the internal leadership, the political endorsements, the conservation committees, which are about our action on the grounds for trees and parks and housing or whatever else, transportation, and it gets confusing. And I think one of the questions I would ask, which I won't because we're going to give other people a chance, but of involving more of our own members in the action of the Sierra Club, because a lot of them are not at all active and we have lots of room for that. But I won't take that time right now. Anyway, we have time at least for one more question for the San Francisco people. Do you want to pick one, Scott, and toss it out there that might be different from the ones that we've received so far?
Sure. There's another one from chat that I can choose.
Yeah.
Okay, and same thing. Do you want to do 30 seconds from each? Because
Yeah.
we are lucky to have a number of folks here from SF. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one comes in from Peter Belden, and this is about.
Actually, Peter already asked one, the first one. Can you find somebody else?
Oh, sure. The other one we have is from Kathy Howard. So for the SF group candidates, how are you going to address the lack of racial equity in environmental issues? And in particular, how do you plan to grow the SF group membership to include a more diverse community?
Okay. Last time we started with Sandra, right? So this time we start with Kelly. Kelly, Brian, Charles, Kieran, Sandra. Go, Kelly.
Is my time starting now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that question. Having worked in environmental justice issues, it's really about going out to the communities, meeting them where they're at, and making sure that it's culturally competent. So working with areas affected by the radiation in Hunters Point, Bayview area, making and meeting them where they're at, seeing what their needs are and how we can support them, while also making sure that their concerns aren't dismissed and that we're also not airdropping in there, and making sure that we're being a white savior.
Thank you. Okay, Brian.
Yes, and I believe that in any action or policy we put forth, we put in a racial and social equity lens. I really learned that lesson in my development work in Cambodia, as well as my time with Department of Environment, when we put that upon policy, how it affects those communities and how we mitigate and look. How do we mitigate and hopefully alleviate some of those burdens on those communities in San Francisco? And I think if we start using those type of tools and those assessments and everything that we do, we can get pretty far in meeting our goals.
Thank you, Brian. Charles.
Yeah, I'll second Kelly and Brian's comments. I used to live in Soma my first 5 years living in the city, and my windowsill was like constantly covered with soot from the highway. And that doesn't happen in a neighborhood like I moved to after I lived in Soma, like Eureka Valley, because the infrastructure, that like fossil fuel infrastructure, isn't there. And that's the kind of thing that causes like very disparate climate impacts across different communities. So I'm very personally aware of that. Also, I think just the digital, like in terms of membership, growing a more diverse membership, the like digital interface of Sierra Club membership is very complex and confusing. And as a member since 2017, I basically just figured out this year how to get more involved. So that's something that we can fix internally.
That's been one of my big campaigns, the communications overall. Okay, let's see, Kieran.
I've been turned into a frog, but I will answer this question. Sorry. So I agree, Kelly. Listening to the local needs of the community is it's the most important thing to do. So what Avery and I have done together is do a lot of community rides with organizations in the neighborhood like Bicicleta de Pueblo, and then working with her school on curriculum around safer streets and alternate transportation. So I think partnering with the local organizations is the right way, and it's fun to do too.
You're going to do great with the frogs. Sandra.
Yes, thanks. So I think it's really important to have trust with the community groups that we really want to reach out to and to give them a voice. And I think that we actually, for those of us who have worked in that community, that there is a trust in that community, then it's imperative, I think, that we go out to them and actually be a bridge for the Sierra Club. And I also think that in all the committees, the Transportation Committee, every committee should really have diverse voices, people of color, people of all ages, I think that kind of representation actually gives us a broader scope of work, but also it defines our work in a way that it's speaking directly from the people who are directly affected by a lot of the environmental issues. We can't guess what they need. We can't say through our lens what they need. We really need to talk about the people that actually are living there every day, the generations of people that have lived there, what they have seen, what they've experienced, and how do they want us to help, and do they want us to help? But I also just think that if they have a seat at the table, if they have a vote, if they get more involved, we will learn also as an organization how we can best help them and support them. And I think it's very important.
Just a little bit over
Not
time,
take.
sorry.
Thank you very much for reminding me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I really appreciate how everybody has really tried to stick to time. It's hard. I also so appreciate that you took the time to come. I think that we have some more questions in the chat that are for the San Francisco people, and maybe you all can tell us how you want us to deal with that. Because do you want us to send them to you? It's okay with me. I don't know if Scott's available to stay for a little bit longer. If you want to answer those, Scott's okay. We could do another 15 minutes. San Francisco people, what's your pleasure? The other people can stay or go as they wish, of course.
I have to, sorry, I have a prior engagement, but if we can answer by email, if you want to email us, I'm happy to share my information. I wish I could stay.
If it's a 2-minute answer, I have time for that.
2 more minutes you've got, okay.
Yeah, it's a 2-minute answer from us. It's probably, I'm thinking 10 minutes probably, so I can stay for that. If it works.
Okay, all righty. Oh, I see Wendy's hand up. Yeah, Wendy?
Yeah, I've had this question. I came to this meeting tonight to hear why there's one team that's all men and there's one team of all women that are promoting their candidacy together. Is there some gender issues going on in the Sierra Club? I'd really like to hear a little bit more about the interactions and why this happened. I'd like to see men and women working together.
What is the document that you're showing? I haven't seen that.
I
Is
think,
anybody else
I
know
think
about it?
Wendy, I
This
think
is
Wendy,
for
that
San
that's a-
Francisco.
excuse me.
I don't think each candidate could answer this, or maybe they could.
No, I wouldn't ask each candidate to answer it in this forum. I think that it's a great question to ask them via the contact information that they've put on their candidate statements. And I encourage you to do that. And I think that
You
that
mean the
would be a
group,
good
contact
way.
the group, the team that's advocating this, or to one by one?
One by one. In your ballot, there should be
Okay, well,
contact information for the candidates.
I think other people might want to understand that I have an answer also. You're saying limiting the answer to me, just one person?
No,
It's a touchy issue. Yeah, anyway, it's one of the social issues that's important. As a feminist, I want to bring it up because it's not clear why each team is only gendered together. It's only a San Francisco brochure, Stephen, I can. Anyway, just let you know that I'm a new member and I'm looking to see what's going on within the group. And that's part of management, that's part of inclusiveness, that's part of speaking up to tough issues. So anyway, just let you know I'm out there and I'm not involved yet, but I just came tonight to hear what's going on. So I appreciate listening to all of you from all the different groups. That was really interesting for me. So thank you.
thank you, Wendy. I guess we popped you in there a little bit. We were going to have one question from the chat. We had one more 10 minutes to do. So now we have 8 or 7. Do you have one more for the San Francisco people, Scott?
I don't actually. We covered everything.
Oh, okay.
I
Not
think
that
there's
other
one
one that-
more.
oh.
I think, excuse me, I'm so
Pam?
sorry. I think there's one more from Jay Bain, 6:42 p.m. about Canopy. Do you see that?
Oh.
Oh, I do see that. I apologize. Okay, yeah, we can do this one for sure.
Okay, that's okay. We didn't address the one way back from 6 o'clock about racial equity in environmental issues. Did we? Did not. So.
We
I
did.
think we just answered that one.
Okay, I was spaced out. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Peggy, I'll ask
I
the
mean,
question.
we haven't answered that whole question, Pam, I don't think. But it has been addressed and working on, yeah. So go ahead, Scott, this is Jay Baines. Yeah, we got a question in, okay?
Yes,
Is
and thank you for
and
bringing this
Jay
back.
is here, I assume, because he's chatting?
I think he left.
He left, okay. Okay, all right.
Okay, here we go. That's gonna be great. Question for the SF group candidates. SF is known for having a very low green canopy / coverage. Does the Sierra Club encourage tree canopy improvement in SF? And how would the candidates address this? Is this typical for the Bay Area?
Okay, tree coverage. I think, Sandra, it would be you, right? Because Kelly started
Sure.
last time.
Sure,
Okay.
I'm happy to. You know, as I mentioned, my father-in-law founded Friends of the Urban Forest as a volunteer. He just went door to door and said, do you want a tree in your sidewalk? I just think that it's not just in San Francisco. We are hearing about this all over, probably the United States too, this inequity about tree canopy, that these sidewalks that people have to walk on in areas that are really, really hot, over 100 degrees without any tree canopy. Absolutely, this is an equity issue. I actually think this is something the Sierra Club should take up in San Francisco, looking at neighborhoods and looking at them equitably. Who owns the property that they're able to say, yes, let's plant a tree. Oh, thank you for waiting and reminding me. But yes, I think there's something we can do about it. But we need to use data. And then also, again, I think that we probably should organize too. So thank you.
Thank you. Kieran?
I think Kieran had to drop. He's got to
Okay.
get his kids in bed.
Yeah, okay. Charles?
All right. I'm not an expert. I don't have the family connection that Sandra does to urban forestry, but I do like having trees around, and I do know that different neighborhoods have very disparate amounts of coverage. I'd like to see, it's not just people's personal property or the sidewalks where trees can be located. There's a lot of maybe terrifyingly large amount of space dedicated to cars in many parts of the city. And some of that could be dedicated to trees.
Thank you. Brian? Oh, no, Brian had to leave. Kelly?
Yeah, I agree with Sandy. It absolutely is a racial justice issue. There's studies that link lack of tree coverage in more racially, in Black and brown neighborhoods. There's less trees, there's more pavement. So absolutely environmental justice issue that we need to address. I also want to point out that the city should also then adjust its budget to make sure that it can maintain and take care of the trees and making sure that it's not damaging property or overgrowing the sidewalks, making sure that it's truly a sustainable and paid for project.
I think it's a lovely way to end our forum on trees. Doesn't that just somehow seem wonderful?
Who doesn't like trees?
Right. Oh, actually, I used to volunteer for Friends of the Urban Forest. There are some people out there that don't like trees. Yeah, at least not in front of their houses. But anyway, here most of us are tree huggers, I think. Thank you again so much for everybody being part of this. We will be posting this forum, this meet and greet, as soon as we can, as soon as Leanna or Zephyr from the chapter staff can post it on our website. The September 29th one is already there. And the next thing really for everybody to do is get out the vote. I mean, we had a 1% turnout a couple years ago. We made it to 2% of our chapter last year. Let's go for 3. So tell everybody that you know who's a member to get their votes in, and encourage them, to be involved and further.
Amazing. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Peggy, for leading as always. The whole process, you're amazing. Thank you, everybody, for turning out, and good night. Thank you for all you do.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
See you, everybody.
Bye.